Welcome back to Stormworks Basic Tutorial. This is going to be a pump and piping tutorial. We're going to go over some of this. Some of the stuff is counterintuitive. You need to understand how these different pipes work, what are the best situations to use different type of pumping units. The main limiting factor we have in game is the pipe. Because of the diameter of the pipe can only hold so much water at a time. So one section of pipe can only hold so much water. Now, the pipes in game have a limitation about 75 liters in, 75 liters out. One way we could do this IRL is we could increase the diameter of the pipe, make the pipe larger. That would make each section able to hold more water and move more water. Can't do that in game, but we can do things like adding more segments of pipe. So let's go ahead and take a look here. One thing we have to worry about here is as the volume drops in this tank is full of water, this one is empty. We're going to be pumping from here to there. I'm going to reset the simulation here, or the test, every time I test a different pump, because what's going to happen is as the volume drops on this level, it's going to slow down the flow rates. And so we need to go ahead and look at that. So the most simple one we have here is this one here. This is a fluid port to a pump to pipe to a fluid port. Pretty simple here. We're going to go ahead, we're going to toggle this on, and we'll page up, and we'll let it stabilize. As you can see, 75, 75. So we are currently at the pipe limit. So this is as much as this pipe can take. So the next setup here is pretty simple here. I will reset it. All right, so we have the next one here. So if we look, we have a fluid port to a pipe to a pump, and then it goes into a cross, it goes out, and then it will splay off into these. So theoretically what this is going to do is this is going to allow us to put more water on this outboard end. This is as though we increase the diameter of the pipe. But there are some issues. One, the way I set this up is purposely bad. If you look at it, the water is coming through the fluid port, but then it's going to a single pipe. So right here, we're limited to 75, 75. And then we're going to take 75, 75, and we're going to split it through all these pipes. So this one I know right off the bat is not going to work well. We're going to turn this on, and we'll go up. There's 75, 75. As you can see, we're not getting any benefit out of this, the limiting factor being that one pipe section. All right, so I reset it again. The bottom one here, the difference is it's the exact same as this one. It has 3 pipes. They're all connected the same. It has a single pump. The difference here is you notice on this one, I have fluid port, 1 pipe. This limits us to 75, 75. On this one, it's fluid port, pump, and then it goes out. Let's take a look at this one. Click that on. 79, 79. As you notice, we've gotten our first rise in the flow rates. We're actually able to go over 75, 75, and it makes sense. This here is the fluid port. That allows us to pull as much in as we want into the pump. It pushes it through, and then it goes through 3 pipes. So now we've tripled the diameter of the pipe, essentially. So this is acting as though we triple the diameter. But you quickly notice as the volume goes down in the tank, we're starting to lower the liters per second. So this is still, out of these 3, the most efficient, but not by a lot. So you have to ask yourself the question, is it worth the extra cash, and is it worth the extra time and space to plumb up the system like this in order to get that small little boost in flow rate? You know, we only went up to 79, so we only went up by 4 liters per second. Is that worth it to you? That's a question you have to ask yourself. All right, so let's reset again. This next one here we have 3 pumps. They're directly plumbed right into the fluid ports there, and then they go through the 3 pipes here in. Now this will simulate what we have at all of the diesel and jet fuel and oil buy and sell points. Each one of those has 3 independent pumps. You can have 3 different nozzles, and that's how these pumps work. This is going to be one of your more efficient systems. So let's turn this on. Look at 1, 75, 75, 60, 60, 75, 75. Now, likely this one is a little bit lower because it's in between these 2, so it's stealing the water around this. So it's creating kind of a void there. But as you can see, this will essentially, especially if we space this out a little bit better, by 1 probably, we'd be able to triple our flow rate. This is going to be a much more efficient system. So let's kind of look at this again. 75, 75. This one's about 75, 75. This one was 79. This one is 75 times 3. This one is moving 225 liters per second. So if you're going to do a system like this, this is how you're going to want to do it. This is better than the bottom system. It's better than this system. It's better than this system to do a system like that. And the next one here is a large pump. So I'm just going to open the valve here. As you can see, we're plumbed directly into the wall. It goes into right to a fluid port, goes into the large pump. It comes through here, and then it splits off into 3. Let's turn it on. let's watch our flow rates here. As you can see, 66, 66. A lot of this has to do with we have a bunch of elbows in here. So let's change this one up and let's see if we can get this one pumping a little bit better. All right, so I've made some changes here. As you can see, they're in pink. All I've done is reset it, and we have the large pump here. Now it goes directly through. Now let's turn it on and let's take a look. About 75, 75. Again, why is this happening? The limiting factor here is this pipe here can only hold 75, 75. I very rarely to, if ever, use these large pumps because of this. This large pump takes up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 blocks. This one takes up 3. I generally will go to these smaller ones before I'll go to this large one. As you see, we're not getting any benefit. You'll see people throw a large pump on. Now, this large pump can be helpful because if you're pumping over long distances. See, does a large pump work better to pump over long distances than one of these smaller pumps? We have a large pump here. It goes all the way down here. It loops back. It loops up again, and then it comes down and it goes into the tank. We have pretty much an identical loop up here. This one up here is actually 1 block shorter because this one's longer than this one. And so let's give it a quick test. So we're going to go ahead, we'll toggle on this one, and we'll check the pump. 60, 60. All right, and we'll reset the simulation. 74, 74. So that is why these large pumps are not useless. They do help with long distances. This one was capped out at 60, 60. This one here is 75, 75. So if you're going to go long distances, yes, it is better to use this large pump than this short pump. This one was about 60, 60. This one was 75, 75. So what we're going to do here is we're going to do a quick battery test. And what I'll do here is I will turn on this one, and I will look at the battery. Let's look at how quickly it's going down. As you can see, it's not going down that fast. We've yet to get below 99%. All right, let's look at our flow rate. 75, 75. All right, simulation's reset. Now, let's do the impeller pump here. So I'm going to open the valve. I'm going to turn this all the way up. As you notice, we're going 19 RPS. Let's look at our battery. Here. Oh my God, look at that. We're at 0.01 units of battery, and we're about to use our battery up. Was it worth it, though? Did we get huge flow rates out of this? Let's look at the impeller pump. No. We're at 66, 66. Now, could I hook this up? Potentially better. It's going to need 1 elbow, but we could probably get this to hook up better where we could, let's say at the best we could do is 75, 75. Remember, the pipe is the limiting factor. The pipe is limited to 75, 75. All right, and as you can see, if we look at the battery here, we are almost out of electricity. So these are incredibly electrically hungry, and they're not really worth it. Now, I do use these, for example, in superchargers when I'm pumping air into my engines, but I don't use an electric motor to power them. I use the torque connection from the engine in order to turn this impeller. That's what I end up doing with that. All right, so one thing to note with these, though, is remember, we only get up to 60 liters per second. So let's start to slowly increase this and see. There's 66, 66 right there. Let's decrease it some more. 66, 66. We do not have to turn this very fast to reach the pipe limitation. There's 0.02. As you can see, we are not gaining any liters per second by making this scream. All right, so we do not need a lot of power or force to turn it. Now, this motor eats up a ton of electricity. But as you can see, we don't need a huge RPS in order to turn this. You'll see people trying to really gear their impellers up very high. You do not need to do that. Look at the RPS. We're at 0.7 RPS, and we're maxed out on liters per second. So you do not need to move your impeller pumps at very, very high speeds because at the end of the day, remember, the pipe is your limiting factor. The pipe is what's going to restrict your flow. Hopefully you guys found this helpful and informative. There are a bunch of different things here, but always the best way to do it in game is to test it out, see how it works. And so, we're learning quite a bit from this. Understanding that, for example, using one single pump like this is often better than trying to pipe and splay it out. If you do want greater flows, go to 3 pumps like this. This is going to give you 75, 75, 75 all the way through. But remember, you do need to space these out. If you put these too close together, this one's going to get robbed by either side. So this is how a pump on one of the docks will work. If you're going to do a long run, if you're going to have a really, really long pipe, it is beneficial to have a large pump over a small pump. Impeller pumps, if you're going to hook them up, They do not need to spin very fast. They should be driven by an engine's torque output, not an electric motor, as the electric motors use an insane amount of electricity. So I hope you guys found this helpful and informative, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.